Well, I've got to do something with my Calla Lily rhizomes. These are the ones that are variegated, and you can see they're trying to send up shoots. Usually I keep all this on this jalousied back porch. It generally doesn't freeze with the big Arctic blast we had, plus it's been cold here the last week. I had to carry these inside. These are the solid leaf, non-variegated Calla Lilies. I had them in that bag when I brought them from the river, and I had those right there in this container. I cleaned the dirt off of them, or soil, because it's not dirt, and I see they're sprouting because they've been inside the house. Now in the lower part of our tri-level, we keep the temperature down, and because it's a big family room, and a utility room and a bathroom, and they still have started to sprout. So they've dried out. When I dug them up, they were in mud. I've knocked off most of the soil, and you don't have to do a whole lot to protect these. I would say a dahlia bulb is a little more, and cannas, rhizomes are harder to keep over the winter than these. They don't take a lot of work. I already have refilled both of my 32-gallon trash cans with my homemade potting soil. And the nice thing about it is the compost itself has some moisture in it, and the sphagnum moss, the Pro Mix, is all dry, solid, and compacted and vacuumed in a bag to where it never gets any moisture. So the two together, put in a trash can with a lid that is fairly airtight for a trash can, it retains some moisture, and it's ideal just to keep these moist. Now, with most things that grow under the ground that you have to lift, they will rot. They cannot get too wet. It's better to be too dry than too wet, but you don't want them to shrivel up and go bad. There's still some dirt on it. Soil, excuse me. That's one of my little pet peeves. People call their garden soil dirt. Dirt is something you wash off a pair of jeans in a clothes washer. So my job is, we save these gallon bags. We rinse them out. We turn them upside down on a liter bottle. Open, they dry out. We fold them up and put them in a drawer. And I've written on here, Calla Lilies variegated, speckled leaves, 2003. I've got 2 bags for those. I've got 1 bag for these. This is a solid leaf kind. You can see very easily where you can take that apart. Now I got too close on that when I dug it up with the shovel. And see, that's calcified over. I got too close on that one, and there was still a little bit of moist soil on that. And underneath that is not dried like this is. This is like the sole of your feet. After when you were a child and you ran around barefooted after a while, your sole of your foot got hard. And I need to dry this out or put it in the bag upside down so this is toward the top of the bag, because I never seal these bags all the way up. I will put some potting soil in the bag. I'll put the rhizomes in there. I'll add more soil, and then I'll ziplock the top and leave one end open. Well, you might say I use a lot of potting soil just to pot up a few things. Once I plant these bulbs, the potting soil hadn't been used. I just dumped that back in the container. So I'm getting 2 uses out of it. One when I pot up a plant, and one to keep all these rhizomes alive. Now here's a little tip. I'm sure you all know that if you take in the Ziploc brand, if you put your finger on the side that has the red color at that end and go to the left, it always seals a lot easier than if you do it from the other side. And then you can leave that much open, and you can crease this with your fingers, or you can put a clothespin on one little side, and that lets it breathe. That soil is not wet enough to damage these rhizomes, but it's enough moisture in it to keep the rhizomes from drying out. Although it's much like a potato, calla lily. This larger rhizomes. The smaller ones would dry out with some protection. Now the real small ones you saw was from a seed pod that dropped maybe 3 seasons ago. It might have grown, I think it's probably grown 3 years. So you saw they were about that big around after 3 years. So you could tell how old the others are. The larger ones that look like potatoes, we can't even imagine, probably 10 to 12 years they've been in the ground. We lose track of time. I do a lot of photo work and a lot of video work, and with the digital cameras since the early 2000s, it has dates on them, so a lot of times we can use that as a reference. But now all I have to do is wait for it to get warm, and they like it warm. Calla lilies do not grow until it's 55 degrees. And since our family room downstairs in the straw level is about 55 to 58 degrees all the time, we turn the heat up if we want to watch like the Super Bowl tomorrow. And by having that temperature, it thought it was springtime. So now I've got to bring it out here on the porch. And today the porch is 58 degrees on its own.